The cooler days are starting to settle in, and there's nothing like the warmth of the oven to welcome the season. Today we're sharing some recent favorite bakes full of cozy spices, starting with some cranberry biscuits or scones. We're using some dried cranberries, which I really think that would be even better when we soak it. So I am starting a kettle and we're gonna brew some tea to soak our cranberries in. Today I'm brewing some hibiscus tea. It's brightly red and it will be a perfect match for those cranberries. You can also use just regular black tea if you have, or any warm liquid for soaking our cranberries, because you want to plump them up a little bit. You don't want them dry in the scone or biscuit. We're transferring this tea into a bowl so we have more room to work with and soak our cranberries. So we are using these regular dried cranberries. It's so hard to find sugar-free or no sugar added cranberries. So I just tried to find the 50% less sugar. It's still super sweet. And I am soaking about 1 cup of this. These scones are so easy to make and so quick to put together. I will have all of the recipes for what we're baking this week in a blog post, so you can check it out on our website, highpath.com, but I will link it in the description, of course. Isaiah is my handy dandy assistant today, my sous chef. He is learning how to open up this can of coconut milk, which we're going to use in our scones. It makes the most creamiest and most delicious scone, so give it a shot if you have not used some coconut milk in your scones. We're also adding some softened coconut oil here. Now you can definitely use just like a still very solid cold coconut oil. We're going to use a fork to cut the oil into the flour. You can use a cutting tool like a pastry cutter. You can also use your fingers as well, just to rub all of the oil into the flour, and it should resemble coarse crumbs like wet sand. We're going to combine some vinegar with our coconut milk in here. Isaiah wanted to try this mixture. He always likes to try. He is very curious. Pour that all into our flour mixture and we are going to mix it all up. Now this mixture is going to look a little bit dry and it will feel a little dry at first, but just trust us, we are going to continue to work this dough. Slowly, all of the flour will absorb the liquid, forming the perfect dough for this scone. It's best to use cold coconut oil because it creates a even flakier texture in these scones. So if you can, definitely just use some cold coconut oil and cold coconut milk. If you have kids, we would love for them to join you in making these scones or biscuits. They are very easy and so fun for the kids to kind of just punch out the little discs of dough. You can roll these out with a rolling pin. I'm just using my hands because I don't want to dirty another dish. I folded the dough in half and then just spread it out a little bit more. This will create some layers in the biscuit, so that way when it bakes up, it's nice and flaky. As you can see, Isaiah started cutting the dough out, but I completely forgot about the star ingredient, which is the cranberries. So I had to stop him, and we're going to add all of our cranberries. I did drain the liquid as much as possible, and then I'm just going to fold in all of the cranberries and make sure all of the dough has little pieces of cranberry everywhere, spread out nicely. Once we added the cranberries, the dough seemed a little bit wetter, so we're just going to sprinkle our board and our dough with a little bit of flour so that it's really easy to handle. Again, I'm going to use my hands to spread and press this dough to about 1/2 inch thick, I would say. You can definitely press it out however thick you want. The thicker you press out the dough, the thicker this biscuit will be. Using whatever tool to press out our biscuits, we're just using a cup, and it works perfectly fine. I have already preheated our oven to 400 degrees Fahrenheit, and I've also lined our baking sheet with a Silpat, which is basically a little silicone parchment paper that is reusable. You can see here all of the layers that we've created in this scone. When it bakes up, it's going to spring up and it's going to make it a really flaky biscuit. We are going to brush the tops with some coconut milk. It's going to kind of take place of an egg wash. We don't use eggs here, so we're just using some coconut milk. We are baking these at 400 degrees Fahrenheit for about 20-25 minutes or so, depending on the size of your biscuit. And that brushed coconut milk is going to create a lovely golden brown on the top. The biscuits look beautiful. Look how golden brown, and they kind of sprung up a little bit. These are going to be the perfect treat for breakfast, for snacks, whatever that you need these for. We had these for breakfast. You can definitely cut it open in the middle. I should have taken a shot of it in the middle, and maybe just, you could spread some butter on it. You could spread some honey on it, anything that you like. This biscuit alone tastes really, really good. It's nice and flaky and soft in the middle. It's perfect for fall. We highly encourage you to make these. These are one of the kids' favorites at the moment, and we hope that you enjoy them as much as we do. Another day, another bake. On this morning, it was actually really nice and cozy and gloomy. And I had the taste for some ginger and also some coffee cake. So we're going to combine that. We have some cinnamon that we're working with, some allspice, all these cozy spices that are coming for fall. Oh, so exciting. And then, of course, our ginger powder. On the menu for breakfast, we are making a ginger spice coffee cake. I've made it a few times now, and the first few times, of course, I freehanded it. I didn't use a recipe. So today I am going to measure these out just so that we can put together this recipe for you, because it was a really delicious coffee cake. It was a crowd pleaser amongst our kids, and if they love it, I'm sure you will too. First things first, we will combine our wet ingredients. So I've got a 1/4 cup of coconut oil melted. I have 1 cup of sugar. We don't like it too sweet, so if you want to up the sweetness, you can definitely do that, but this is kind of like a medium sweet coffee cake. We've already mixed in our 3 flax eggs. We are also adding 1 cup of water. You can use plant milk if you would like in place of the water. We're also going to mix in 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar. That is going to react with the baking soda to make the cake rise. You can, of course, also use baking powder if you have. We don't use baking powder in our household just because it's more of a personal preference. We don't use it because it has cornstarch in it. Now it's time to add our warming spices. So I've got 2 tablespoons of ginger powder. I know it's a lot, but it tastes so good. If you love gingerbread and ginger anything, you can just trust us, add the 2 tablespoons, or you can definitely just, add a little or as much as you want of these seasonings. We're also adding 1.5 teaspoons of cinnamon, 1/2 teaspoon of allspice, and we're going to mix that up before we put in our 1 3/4 cups of flour and 1 teaspoon of baking soda. Of course, just like all of our recipes, this recipe is so easy to make and so good. You are just going to mix up all of these ingredients in a mixing bowl, pour it into a 9x9 baking dish, and you're good to go. The batter should look a little bit like this. It's going to be nice and thick. It's kind of like a pancake batter, if you will. I'm brushing our 9x9 baking dish with some coconut oil just to make sure nothing is going to stick. Pour in that batter. Make sure you're scraping the bowl. You don't want to miss any of this batter. All right, now time to set that aside. We are going to make the crumble topping for this coffee cake. We're combining some flour, 3/4 of a cup of flour. We're gonna season it with a drizzle of cinnamon. You can use some allspice, whatever you have. A 1/4 cup of coconut sugar, and we are going to add about a 1/4 cup of coconut oil. My coconut oil was not very cold, but I would suggest using some cold coconut oil as best as you can. Mine was a little bit softer. It's kind of like soft butter, but that's okay. You're going to cut the oil into the dry mixture, and then you're going to create this beautiful crumbly crumble that's going to go on top of your coffee cake. There is something so satisfying about doing this step. It's one of my favorites. It's just so fun to play with the crumble. Time to put this in the oven. We are going to bake this at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for about 30, 35, maybe even 40 minutes, depending on your oven. Once it's done, if you put a toothpick in it, it should come out clean, and you know it is done. We're gonna let this cool. It's going to be so tempting to cut into this, but we're gonna let this cool and be good people. After about 20 minutes letting this cool, it is now time to slice. Wouldn't you want to dig into this cake or what? Bring your plates, everybody. Come and gather around our island and let's have a cup of tea and some ginger spice coffee cake. Trust me, make this for your loved ones. Make this if you have friends over this weekend. It is going to be a delicious treat. I initially did cut quite a large piece, so this was quite big, but you can definitely cut it a little bit smaller. You can cut this in half, is what the kids also did, and it's time to tuck into this beauty. Cozy up with a plate of this cake, get your warm beverage on, and fall is in your kitchen. Last but not least, the kids wanted to make some donuts, so we are going to be baking some Clove Donuts. We have these pans which we purchased. These are perfect for any baked donut. We don't want to make a yeast dough where we're going to fry it, so baking is definitely healthier. For this recipe, we're going to start off with 1 cup of coconut milk along with 1 cup of coconut sugar. Again, we don't like to make it too sugary and sweet, so we like to control it a little bit, so we only use 1 cup of coconut sugar. We're also going to add 4 flax eggs. While we were working on the batter, I had Mercy help oil up our pans for the donuts. Grace was the one that thought about using clove for these donuts, so we're using 1.5 teaspoons of clove. We're also using 1.5 teaspoons of cinnamon, and then we are adding some flour. So I've got 1.5 cups of flour, 1 teaspoon of baking soda also going in. Don't forget to preheat your oven at 375 degrees Fahrenheit to get ready for the donuts. We tried several ways of pouring the batter out into our donut pans. At first, we just tried to pour it out. The other option is to use like a piping bag and just put the dough in there and just pipe it out, which I really believe it was a great idea. We don't have a professional piping bag, so we just used a small little Ziploc bag and cut the corner. We did one of those. We also tried to use, our spoons to see if we could just spoon it in. And if you have a piping bag, I would recommend using the piping bag. It's a lot easier to make these donuts this way. But for the rest of our donuts today, I just used a spoon. We used probably 2 spoons, 1 to scoop and 1 to scrape off into our little pans. Mercy wanted to try another donut with the piping bag, or the Ziploc bag if you will. So she is doing that. Like I said, it worked perfectly. If you have a big Ziploc bag, just use a bigger Ziploc bag. We are putting these in a hot oven at 375 Fahrenheit for about, I'd say 20-25 minutes or so. Just check up on it. When you put a toothpick in it, it should come out clean. And when it does, it is perfectly baked. Mercy had the idea of making sort of an icing, so we have some agave syrup in here. We've also got some coconut milk. Now, as you can see, ours was a little bit runny. I would recommend, if you want to do this, do it maybe overnight. So make your coconut milk little icing with some agave syrup. Just stick it into the fridge and let it just sit overnight. It will come out way thicker and nice and thick, ready for icing all of our donuts. I also forgot to mention, we drained out most of the liquid from the coconut milk. We stuck the coconut milk inside a freezer. We then opened it up, drained all the water, and then just, this is basically the coconut cream. You can also purchase a can of coconut cream. I've seen it at Sprouts, so purchase the cream if you have. If you don't want to use icing, you can definitely dip these in some coconut sugar with some cinnamon. That is so easy, and it's also going to be very delicious. These donuts make a lovely treat if you have any kids over or you just want an afternoon snack for the kids. It's really, really easy and simple to do, and of course, it tastes delicious. We would love to know in the comments which one would you love to try first. All of these were really, really good. I would not recommend it or write a recipe out if it wasn't good. So just let us know in the comments which one you are most excited to try. We hope you guys enjoy spending time with us in the kitchen. We would love for you to try out these recipes. These recipes will be linked in the description in a blog post, so check out the blog post, and we hope to see you on the next video. Bye, everybody.